Alrighty. Hey guys, how's it hanging? I am Kiraknid. This is probably one of the only other videos that's gonna make it to main channel for a while. Consequently unedited because I do not have an editing software. I technically have an editor, however, she's running on a really old laptop and that can't actually run an editing software. So, this is gonna be the setup for now. That's loud. Anyways, this video is going to be a hopefully quick guide-ish on how to counter. I love English. How to counter Ramlethal Valentine in Guilty Gear Strive. And generally, it should be pretty easy. Ramlethal is admittedly a character with very big buttons, very big on screen control, and is a relatively good character as of this patch. However, tools that people have a tendency to often fall for in beginner ranks and whatnot, which is what this video is intended for, have a tendency to, are things like Ondo, aka Giant Rock, and things like Flip. And so I wanted to give you a quick rundown on how you'd counter those. Firstly, Rock. It doesn't seem like it, but if I were to set this to all guard, right, there is a pause there. It's a little hard to see at first, and most of the time it does require a little bit of forethought and a little bit of reading the opponent. But during that pause, you can jump forward, and any time during this, you can counter hit Ramlethal. I would, you know what? I'll show you. Training settings, counterattack settings, after block, action 1. Jump, right? Because you can imagine what you would do after a jump, but right here, all you need to see is that you can jump out of it. Another thing is Ramlethal's Flip. So, this has a tendency to get a lot of you because she can go from close slash immediately into Flip or into low dust, and this is very difficult to handle sometimes. And this is the point where a lot of us would say to eat the overhead, in a sense. However, another thing that you can do, this has enough of a gap that you can jump. You will essentially levitate like 0.3 centimeters off the ground or something, like a really small amount, and jump block it. This will mean that, if Ram were to try and come out with an Ondo, you could jump over it, and if Ram were trying to go for a Flip, you could jump block it. However, I wouldn't much advise doing this, because if you try to jump, it keeps saying counter because of the risk. If you were to try and jump out of that, as you can see, you will get hit. And also, if they're close enough and using close slash into it, they can also close slash into 2D and catch your jump. It's a little tricky, but they could do it. They could frame trap you the whole 9 yards. So, what you're going to want to do instead, typically, is just low block until the Ram goes in for Flip. And the reason that's important is because if Ram hits you with Flip, I mean, most of the time you're going to be seeing this massive Flip anyways, but if you don't, then a big thing is she cannot combo off of Flip, not without meter. Actually, I don't even know if she can combo with meter on this, because it leads into a soft knockdown. Yeah, she can combo with meter, but without meter, she is useless off of this move. She just has to continue with her pressure, which admittedly is very crushing typically, but it is what it is. However, on the other hand, 2D is a combo starter. So it's much safer to get hit by this than it is to get hit by this. Because if she were to hit flip, she gets nothing off of it except more block strings and whatever. And then at that point, there will become a point in which Ram will think that you're stupid in lower ranks and that you only block low. And that is when you can pull out 6P. Typically, any character that has a 6P, if they get a counter hit off of it, they can normally combo, right? My bad, I did the wrong thing. They can normally combo off of it, and off of a counter hit. And the reason that's important is there we go. Never mind, you can't 6P. I completely lied to you. I'm so sorry. This does actually beat out 6P, which is good to know. However, 6P can counter hit that. There is time to hit Ondo, which is also important. But you cannot 6P this, as I have just learned, which is interesting. What you can do is high block it, because after a high block of this, Ram is super negative. She's at, I don't know, she's just really, really negative. She doesn't even have time to get out a slash, right? She could theoretically get out a, nope, she can't even get out a punch, even if you match hard enough. So then she's just forced to block, and now it's Testament's turn, or whatever character you're playing. But yeah, those are just the moves that have a tendency to catch lower tier players. And then once you get into like real Ram, there's just a lot of looping this kind of stuff, right? It should be noted, as you just saw, you can 6P H sword. You cannot 6P S sword. Never mind, I lied to you again. You can 6P S sword. 6P is not the end-all be-all against Ramlethal though, because again, 2D is a combo starter, and this is a frame trap. So don't just 6P willy-nilly. But yeah, that's roughly it. There shouldn't, if you're getting caught in a combo, there's not much you can do other than use your burst effectively. And it should be known that there's not much else that Ram can do to you, really. Ram can pull this out every once in a while, but this isn't very strong for Ram, because if you block it, you really just reset to neutral. And if Ram hits it, it's just a soft knockdown, much like Flip is. If a Ram ever uses this on block, they're dumb. I don't know what else to say. Like, this is a horrible move to use in a block string. I'm sorry. But yeah, always be looking out for that Ondo. Always be looking out for that Flip. And remember, you can jump Ondo. You can hit during Ondo. And when it comes to Flip, don't try and 6P. Just block it. Because blocking it leaves Ram very negative, and you get your turn. I know just block it is much easier said than done, but once you start getting better and better reaction times, you're going to be able to see this big old Flip. Because it is a, what, 21 move? 21? Yeah, 21 frame startup. So once you get up there in reaction times, you're going to be able to react to that. And then once you're at that point, you're just going to be seeing a lot of looping pressure like that. Also, let's pretend that you're not 6P'ing after every single block. So we'll put this back to none. This guard crushes, which you should know. The reason that that's important is because if a ram uses it right, which I'm not a very good ram, but if a ram does use it right, they can lock you into pressure, like so, and then, if they're good enough, they can loop that pressure back into Ondo. You always have to be aware of the tricky rock move, because it is deceptively strong for it being so easy to counter. That's about it. The only other things you really need to worry about are Ram's jumping buttons, but they completely gutted this button this patch. And this button was never particularly good except for an air-to-air, and I think air-to-air is something that we'll get to later in a more generalized video, because air-to-air has a tendency to be the same amongst most characters. That should be all for just the basics on how to counter Ram. If you want a more in-depth guide, I will give that to you. Just say so in the comment section. Peace, guys.